Yes, welcome to Two Dudes and One Mic. We are back. Had a little hiatus. I am your good neighbor, the OG gamer, H. Sanders, and we have the fact spreader. Oh, the analyst of this channel. We talk about Mr. T.A. Brown.
What
Brown,
it
talk
do?
to me.
What
Tell
it
me how you
do?
been, brother.
Man, I've been great, man. Enjoying this football season, whether we talking professional, whether we talking college, whether we talking high school. I have been enjoying football season. Basketball season is ramping up. So man,
Yes.
it's the most wonderful time of the year for me.
Yes, it is, but it is that's it right there. The most wonderful time of the year. All right, so I'm gonna give a quick rundown real quick. We have some recent news on my Carolina Panthers. They fired Frank Reich and several other coaches on the staff. One in particular I'm really shocked about, but we fired him. Then we want to talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. That game they had this past weekend and what's going to go on with the Eagles going forward. And a sport that me and you both have experience in and love, and that is college football. And this week we are going into championship weekend, my man. Oh my goodness, we have a lot to talk on with that. We're also going to try to hit a little bit. I'll give our estimates on the Power Five championship games and what is that going to look like for the CFP. And also, now that the regular season is over, we're going to have a conversation about Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. You know,
All
they
right.
have notable injuries there as well as notable decommitments just in the last 2 days, man. And so we'll hit on that topic, and then we're going to see if we can squeeze in a little pro wrestling. Our thoughts on Survivor Series, the return of Randy Orton, as well as the return of CM Punk. So how's that for you today, Brown?
Hey man, look, I like the lineup. It sounds like we got a lot to talk about. And I love that one of those topics that we had to talk about is where Todd was right.
Yes, yes. We're gonna walk right
Because
into that subject.
we can't talk about the Panthers without talking about the fact that I was right.
Yep. We're gonna walk right into that segment right now. Thank you for giving me that segue to ride on.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
So we're gonna ride right on into that where Todd was right. As we
Mm-hmm.
know, the Carolina Panthers recently they fired Frank Reich this past Monday morning. As once again we can prove that where Todd was right. Frank Reich is not. I mean, in every way of the word, he is not the
He is
head
not
coach.
a head coach.
That he is not. No, no,
Hey,
no, no.
he can coach, but he's not a head coach. Um,
Right.
and and you know, I think that there's a number of angles that we can really kind of hit this thing. First,
Mhm.
I thought that it was, and you touched on it. It was interesting that they got rid of Frank Reich, and then they did not stop there.
No, they didn't.
They got rid of Josh McCown,
Hmm.
and they got rid of Deuce Staley.
And Deuce Staley, my man.
So, what that means when we're looking at, of course, the firing, they are saying that none of those gentlemen, Frank Reich, Deuce Staley, or Josh McCown, could get Bryce Young right.
Mm.
All of them, all three of them, had an offensive and coaching responsibility to Bryce Young and the offense of the Carolina Panthers. What
Right.
ownership has said is that Frank Reich was not the only issue here with Bryce Young. Deuce
Mm.
Staley was an issue. And part of that is the lack of running game.
Right.
Josh McCown was an issue because of the lack of development in your first round draft pick. Now,
Come
I'm
on.
not even going to get into the fact that I don't think that Bryce Young should have been the number one draft pick. What I am going to get into is simply that Bryce Young was not the quarterback that Frank Reich wanted.
Right.
And
Come on.
so imagine you put a coach in a situation with a quarterback that he really did not want, but the organization wanted, and you already have problems. which if we're going to be honest about this thing, good neighbor, we have to deal with the fact that obviously there is a disconnect between ownership, the front office, and the coaching staff. So I know that as you as a Carolina insider,
yes,
as we look at this moving forward, as you all start to want to think about who you're going to hire next, one of the key things that we're going to have to look at is what is the relationship between ownership, the front office, and the next coaching staff. I believe wholeheartedly this is why Stephen Wilkes did not get the job offer, as truly he should have been the coach.
He should have been the coach.
I'm sticking to that. And
yes, I agree. I agree.
And folk can call it bias because he used to be my coach in college. You know, they can call it that if they want to, but I also know facts. When Coach Wilkes was the interim head coach, that team was winning. That team was playing better. That team was playing inspired ball, and they were getting the job done. And truthfully, you were actually getting the best out of Baker Mayfield at that time as well.
Exactly. So, even though we ended up sitting the Baker Mayfield out, I mean, he was playing under so much inspiration that even when he went over to the Rams, look at what he did for the Rams at the end of their season. I mean, this man, you know, was inspirational. He had the entire football team wanting to play. Where under Matt Rule, they have long since. You look at their body language and how they were just over it. They were done with Matt Rule and that staff, you know. But when Coach Wilkes came in, it's like suddenly everybody wanted to play. I mean, they were 2 games, kind of just 2 games short of going into the playoffs last year. And now you look at what has transpired this season. I mean, man, we're 1-10.
1-10.
I just do not believe if Coach Wilkes was there, had the staff he wanted there,
they wouldn't be 1-10.
I'll be sitting here saying we're 1-10.
Yeah. Y'all wouldn't be 1-10.
Yeah.
You might be 6-9, but
I mean, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. Because there's no guarantee that even under Coach Wilkes, we still would have had all our pieces together we needed this year to make a true playoff run. But I'll take 6 wins over 1.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Yeah,
hands down. You know, so it is. It's going to be interesting, and I think that that's part of the reason why Coach Wilkes didn't get the job is because there is a ownership, front office, coaching staff issue within that organization, and I think until that gets cleaned up, Panthers Nation, Panthers fans, there will not. Your slogan will not be "Keep pounding." Your slogan's going to be, we keep on getting pounded.
Right. I hear you, man. And I'll slide this in too. And a lot of folk don't know this. This is why I'm the insider, I'm the informant. But a guy that played for your favorite team, the Florida State Seminoles. Now, a lot of people don't realize this. Mr. Burns over here.
Ryan Burns, baby.
One of the greatest defensive ends we've had in Carolina.
Probably since Julius Peppers.
Guy like Beast, yeah, about Julius Peppers, what's that been now, about 10 years, 12 years? I mean, he's like, I mean, if anybody I can say can run with Julius Peppers or maybe even be better than Julius Peppers, it's Brian Burns. Now, let me tell you why I believe we're going to lose him in the offseason.
Okay.
We had a terrible season this season. Now, a lot of NFL players, not just quarterbacks, but players, I mean, when they're not really sure about a team, for, like you said earlier, ownership, front office, coaching staff, okay?
Yes, sir.
A lot of players won't sign their contract, or they'll sign their contract and hold out for the entire season. Like, look, if y'all willing to pay me to stay home, that's what I'll do. Y'all don't want to give me a new contract, I'll just stay home. Or we can't work out a contract, wherever he's coming into his contract. He did a contract here. And so with that being said, instead of doing that, what traditionally what players are known to do, which is sit out, hold out, he played.
Yeah.
He played.
Yeah.
And you know why he played? Number one, I believe he's the type of person that he's not just gonna sit home. And I thank God for that character and that personality that he has, but he kept tape and film on himself. So when it's time to hit that market, I don't believe he's going to sign a deal. When it's time to hit that market, they can look at his character and they can look at his playability. And
Okay.
so don't be surprised if he's playing for someone else next season. I Brian Burns, but I believe he won't be in a Panthers uniform next
Well, I'll
year.
tell you like this. He's a commodity, and if the Panthers are smart, they would try to trade him and get some value for him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was rumored they were
Because
going to
they
try
need
to
to
trade him before the deadline here back in week 5, but
the
they
Pan,
didn't do it.
the Panthers need to rebuild that roster. They need to, I mean, outside just the coaching staff and the front office and all that, they need to rebuild the roster. The roster's horrible. You're devoid of a number one receiver.
Yeah.
Your franchise quarterback has lacked development. Not to say that he can't. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay, you heard it here first.
Come on.
Bryce Young is not going to be a superstar quarterback. He's not going to be elite, but he can be good. And so with the lack of development, right now he does not look like he can even be a good quarterback. So there's that piece. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with Miles Sanders. I think Hubbard. I think Hubbard has proven that he's serviceable. But you probably do need to get a better back. And this has been Miles Sanders' problem. I'm all things Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders' problem has always been, since coming into the league, he struggles at running between the tackles.
That is true.
He always tries to bounce everything outside, and that's the reason why Philadelphia was willing to get rid of him. And what you saw is that a lot of what made Miles Sanders is that when you have an offensive line like the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, they could make me look good right now.
Right, I got you.
I mean,
to add on to what you're saying, to piggyback off what you're saying, 2 weeks ago, when Wright gave over the calling to the offensive coordinator, he tried to make Miles Sanders run in between the tackles. And when Miles Sanders did so, did not fumble like he did in the beginning of the season, I think he got about 80 yards, and he didn't even take a whole lot of snaps. And so that just lets you know how really, going back to what you said, there's a large disconnect between front office staff, ownership and coaching staff.
Yep.
And that's why I believe that, going to what you said, I can't hardly say it because I like Burns so much. We're going to have to trade him so we can try to make up for the loss of draft picks. Because here it is, when you trade your picks the way you do, and you know a little bit more than this than I do, you want to trade off your picks, but then you want to win for the next season. So it kind of like, hey, we gave away our pick to the Bears. They got more from us, but hey, we won, so that draft pick goes down, down, down.
Yeah,
but
you want
by
to get
us
value.
losing,
you want to get value. So I'll give you prime example. Okay,
yeah, there's no real value in
I'm
giving up that pick now.
And I'm gonna go with Philadelphia. Philadelphia gave up draft picks in order to get AJ Brown.
Yes, they did.
The value of the draft picks produced them a superstar player. Okay. Then again, they take the value of draft picks to then get somebody like Jalen Carter, who is a young talent who we're seeing is going to be something. So if you're the Panthers, you say, I have a superstar. Let me get some value picks so that I can get something equivalent through the draft that's going to help me over years. Draft picks are collateral. They are collateral for known commodities. Okay. So whether that known commodity is a veteran that's going to put me over the top, or that known commodity is an up and coming potential first round draft pick that is not going to be bust worthy. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
And so again, there has to be a linkage between the front office and the coaching staff, which is not happening in Carolina.
Right.
And
right now we don't even have room for any player development. I mean, nothing, man.
Correct.
Nothing.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
We the Pondies. We pounded upon my Carolina Panthers long enough.
My man said he wanted to get out of that. He feel like we beating a dead horse.
Yeah, right. More like a dead panther right about now. But yeah, let's roll on to a team that's doing a lot better. I mean, they're literally, if you get the records, the complete. You're talking about the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles, and let's dive into this game this past weekend. That man, I'm not an Eagles fan, but these cats had me nervous, man. If we went into overtime and they did pull out a win against the Buffalo Bills, man. Give us your
Go
thoughts on
Birds.
this game.
Go Birds.
Go Birds, yes, yes.
Fly,
But
Eagles,
give us
fly.
your thoughts. Come
On the
on.
road to victory.
On the road to victory. Come on.
Yeah, so listen, the Eagles have been doing exactly what they've always set out to do in accordance with their franchise quarterback. And that's called win games.
Win games.
We're not looking for style points.
Come
We're
on.
not looking to set season records for points, rushing, passing, any of that. We just simply want hot W's. And
Yes,
what the
sir.
Eagles have been doing since really last year is they line them up and they win games. And I'm going to tell
Right.
you how they win games, because a lot of times it has not looked pretty. Trust me, there's been many a Sunday, and this past Sunday was one of those where my blood
Yep.
pressure got wrecked watching the Eagles. Okay, because at one moment they looked like one of the worst teams
Mm,
in the NFL,
right.
and then all of a sudden light
Snap.
switches on,
Light bulb went off. Yep.
and they look like the best team. One of the things that we have to agree and come to grips with, that a lot of these national pundits don't want to, like your Skip
Come on, let's talk
Shameless.
about it.
Colin Cowherd, props to him because he recognizes talent when he sees it. Some of these people on Get Up, they don't know what you're talking about either. Maybe every now and then Dan Orlowski will make a good point. And Stephen A, I'm ashamed of you, considering that you really got the trajectory for your career was in Philadelphia. But I'm going to leave that alone, Stephen A. You know where to find me. And if you don't, I'll give you my number later on. But anyway,
Right. Hit us in the message. Hit us in the message. We'll get you.
Now, who does give us props is my man Shady McCoy, one of the greatest Eagle running backs. But I'm ashamed of Emmanuel Acho, who also used to be with the organization. And at times he vacillates between wanting to be on the Eagles bandwagon and then wanting to be on some other train that's going to nowhere. But
going to nowhere.
I said all of that to make this simple point here. The Eagles do what a lot of other teams don't do, and they are phenomenal at in-game adjustments. So if you look in the first half, the Eagles were trying to pass the ball, and it wasn't working. They got to the second half of the game. They said, okay, you know what? Let's be more balanced. Let's get the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands. Let's let the offensive line push these guys instead of being pushed. And then all of a sudden, the passing game started opening up. And then we got rolling. Jalen gets comfortable. And now, boom. Also, you look at the defense. The defense does a great job of bending, but not breaking in key moments.
They're not breaking. Mm-hmm.
So yes, did they give up points? Yes. But if you look at in key points, they held Buffalo to a field goal. And Josh Allen played a heck of a game now. I mean, he played a great game.
Yes.
But in the moments where it really counted, the Eagles made, whether it was a stop and a key turnover, interception by Bradbury, or if it was giving a certain look that Josh Allen throws inside and the receiver goes outside on an option route that leads to an incomplete pass. Like, people miss the fact that at times quarterbacks make decisions based on what the defense shows them. And so by the time they hit that back foot to throw the ball, they've already processed where they want to go. But if I've shown you something pre-snap that changes once you snap, boom, there you go. And so we have to sometimes take our hats off to Sean Desai, who does a lot of disguising with the defense. Now, I'm going to tell you, I would like to see the defense play a little bit better. I feel as though sometimes we do give up a little too much, but hey, I can't argue 10-1. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
you really
the
can't
great thing is,
argue 10-1. And the couple of things I've seen against the game with the Chiefs and also this game with the Bills, that's a common thing, is that especially with a quarterback like Hurts, the offensive line that the Eagles have, I don't see why the offense is slow in the beginning of the game. I expect the Eagles to come out and I hate to say it, but be wide open, man. And get to the point in which the opposite team has to play catch up,
I'm
which
going
would
to tell
be
you why I
very
think they slow.
difficult to do because that Eagles defense is not going to let you catch up. It's not
I'm
going to
going to
happen.
tell you why I think they slow. Okay, what we
Right,
missed
come on.
is that the previous 2 seasons
Mm,
we had Sean Steichen as our offensive coordinator.
right.
This year we have Brian Johnson, who actually, because of what he's been doing, in Philly fans, don't at me and don't get upset, but this is truth. This is fact right here. Brian Johnson is going to be a leading candidate for a number of head coaching positions because of what he's been doing with the Philadelphia offense. I know. I just heard everybody in Philadelphia literally throw something at me right now because we do get frustrated with him. But I think that what we're missing is, and this is why we start slow, is because what Brian Johnson does is it's like a boxer. He's just throwing the jab. He's throwing the jab to see what the openings are in the defense. You know, if this is a boxing match, you throw the jab to kind of get a feel for how your opponent is going to move. And then as you get deeper into the match, you say, okay, now that I know that he does this, I can get the hook in, or I can get the uppercut in, or I can throw body shots. And you learn all of that from jabbing in the beginning of a fight. And so what Brian Johnson does as an offensive coordinator is he's jabbing at the defense so that he can get a feel for later on in the game for the things that he can do. And this is why late games for the past four games, okay, the Eagles have been down at the half and boat race the team in the second half. Why? Because we used the first half to throw that jab, find out where the weaknesses are, and then boom, it comes on like a light.
Right. And see, that leads me right into my next question for you, Brian.
All right.
With they playing that style of football in the NFL, and we're not getting later into the season, we're way into the meat of their schedule. We all know they're going to. I'm not going to use your line. I'm leaving it for you to hear first thing. But we already said the Eagles were going to win the East. They're going into the playoffs. Now, once they go into the playoffs, you're talking about the best of the best. You not typically have the most elite teams in the NFL in the playoffs. So can that style of offense get them through in the playoffs? It might work in the regular season, but will it work in the playoffs now that you're going against other elite teams?
Okay, so riddle me this.
And they're going to get a bye week. I left that out. The Eagles are getting the bye week, in my opinion.
Riddle me this, Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So all the pundits called this time of year for our schedule the gauntlet.
The gauntlet, that's right.
We are playing presently in this gauntlet playoff teams. What have we done?
Exactly what you just said. Even
we've won.
We've won.
So now let me take it a step further. So I have complete confidence in the playoffs we'll win too. Because this is the thing. You're going to have to come to us. And it's hard to win in Philadelphia.
That is very true.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
The other thing is Okay, well, who are going to be the NFC contenders in the playoffs? What, Dallas?
You're looking at Dallas. You're looking at, I don't know, the NFC South is so
Detroit.
tore up.
So we're looking at
You might be looking,
Dallas.
you're
We're
looking
looking
at
at Detroit.
Detroit.
We're looking at San Francisco. We're looking at possibly what, Tampa Bay
Maybe Tampa Bay.
or New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So out of them, the only team that causes some level of angst is the team that we're playing this Sunday, and that's the 49ers.
That is true.
But the thing is, for the 49ers to beat us, they can't make mistakes. See, if there's one thing that we should have learned now from watching the Eagles, is that the Eagles have shown multiple times this year that they can overcome their own mistakes. You know who hasn't shown me that? San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, or anybody else that we want to throw in this conversation. Right. And when it comes to playoff football,
because even to piggyback that, the Chiefs couldn't, and the Chiefs made some real mistakes that really cost them the game. That I believe if they didn't make the mistakes, the Eagles may have 2 losses instead of 1. You know, so that just goes off of what you were saying, man.
Yes, we can win doing it this way.
Okay, we'll
to answer
see.
your question, yes, we can.
All right, and I want to talk about the 49ers game, but hopefully you'll be back here on Thursday, and we'll get we already know it's going to be
you already know.
But your take on that game,
sure.
And can the Eagles do the same thing they've been doing? But I'm hoping now, I'm being honest with you, that the Eagles come out just a little bit better on offense this week. I don't want them to fall behind on the 49ers. But we can talk about that Thursday when we come back on the channel. All right, so let's move on to something that I've been looking for since the summer hit, to be honest with you.
All right.
And that is college football championship week. And we have a lot going on this weekend in championships. I'd rather we can go through all of the group of 5, Power 5 championships, but the group of 5 isn't going to make it into the playoffs. So let's just talk about Power 5 teams. We got a Big Ten coming up. Specifically, though, let me go Pacific. We're getting all 5 Thursday. Okay, come on. Let's talk about the Big Ten championship and the ACC championship.
So the Big Ten championship happened last week when Michigan beat Ohio State. This is this game here is just to see if Michigan's going to keep their ranking. Truthfully, over the past now probably 6 years, the Big Ten champion has been determined at the Michigan-Ohio State game. Because whoever has won that game has then gone on to win the Big Ten championship, because it's Ohio State, Michigan, and then everybody else. I don't see how Michigan loses to Iowa, and especially with Jim Harbaugh being back
on the sideline
this week. That's added incentive for these guys to play even harder, because that they played hard without him. Now it's now let's show you what we look like when he's in the building. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So
when the man himself is standing on the sideline. Yep.
Michigan has so much motivation right now that I feel bad for Iowa. Now on the ACC side, this, if you ask me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Knowles fan, okay, but to me, this is the game of the weekend.
Oh, come on.
And the reason that I say that it's the game of the weekend is because you have an undefeated Florida State team, okay, who is playing without their Heisman caliber quarterback, because Jordan Travis is done for the season.
Yes, he is.
Tate Rodemaker, he did everything right in the Florida game, okay?
Right.
from the standpoint of his reads and everything else. And I know that there's some who will be frustrated because we're looking for him to do like Jordan Travis. He's not Jordan Travis, but he made the plays that needed to be made to win the game.
That is correct.
Once he settled down. And I know you know this as a SEC follower, that it is hard to win in the Swamp.
That is true.
And so for him to get the job done in the Swamp in his first collegiate start, in a high leverage situation, you're on an undefeated team. You're trying to stop a team from making it to the bowl. It's a rivalry game, and you're fighting to stay in CFP contention. That's a lot for a backup to deal with. That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure now.
And so what I'm glad about is that he handled it. But now you're coming to another level of pressure, because if Florida State is going to play in the college football playoff, they have to win on Saturday.
Yes, and they're going against Louisville.
And Louisville, quiet as kept, is a good, solid football team.
Yes, now, they are.
The only reason that they lost to Kentucky is because they turned the ball over. And if we look from a standpoint of the trends of what the statistics show us, the only games that Louisville has lost all season long are the games where they, of course, the turnover margin was not in their favor. So if Florida State does not turn over Louisville, Louisville can keep pace with Florida State.
Okay. And that's a lot being said there. But Louisville is a team that I really do believe is better than their record. That's just how I feel about Louisville.
Yeah.
And
that's legit.
Louisville can give Florida State a fit. But one thing I feel like Florida State really has in this advantage, and I'm surprised you can go there in this conversation, Florida State's defense. I mean, their defense has to be one of the best in the nation. That's why they're undefeated.
They're solid.
And so we already know your pick. I didn't put this in the notes earlier. I admit to. We already know your pick is going to be Florida State.
All day.
But with this win, can Florida State get into the top four and be in the college football playoffs, man?
Okay, let's just deal with this right now. Let's just get this out of the way. And nobody wants to admit this. An undefeated Florida State team is in the playoff. Okay. An undefeated Florida State team that has won their last two games without their starting quarterback is in the playoffs. I mean, what more do you want? What you had to play? You had to beat a hungry Florida team on the road that was playing for something. They were playing for bowl eligibility. Okay, and you beat them with your second string quarterback on the road. Okay, in a hard place to win. Okay, then you go and you win the ACC championship against a top 15 Louisville team.
Exactly. With your backup quarterback.
With your backup quarterback.
What else does the committee really need to see? I asked that question to see what you think would be on the mind of the committee.
Let's look at it like this. So if Michigan beats Iowa, is Iowa better than Louisville? No. So truthfully, if we look at the road to get to the CFP, Florida State's has been harder than Michigan's. Michigan only played two quality opponents, Penn State and Ohio State. Everything else, and I'm a Michigan fan. Okay, but everything else has been a cakewalk. They played two teams. Florida State has had to play a strong LSU team, a strong Clemson team.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to play a top 15 Louisville team. You played a tough rivalry game in Miami. You played a tough rivalry game against Florida.
That's right.
And you're undefeated.
Yeah.
With your backup quarterback.
with your backup quarterback. Yep. You can't leave that out with the backup
And you
quarterback.
have one of the top defenses in the doggone nation.
Come on.
You're in. You're
You're
undefeated.
in.
You're in. Because Michigan is going to be another undefeated. We don't know
Right.
what's going to happen between Washington and Oregon
Washington and Oregon. Correct.
in in the Pac-12 championship. But
Right.
and this is what people don't want to talk about. So we're just not going to talk about how Washington barely beat a 4-7 Washington State team, and you're going to have them ranked higher than Florida State, who earlier on you wanted to knock Florida State because they had a close game with Boston College, which was much earlier in the season. But
Earlier in the season.
late in the season, you don't as a college football playoff committee, you don't want to acknowledge the fact that was a losing team.
Right.
That you could only beat by 3 points.
Right. Exactly.
And I understand it's a rivalry game, but if you're going to give points for rivalry games, give Florida State the advantage.
You have to turn it up for
they
Florida State. There you go.
Technically, Florida State plays 3 rivalry games a season: Clemson, Miami, and Florida.
That's
All
right.
of those are rivalry games.
Those are rivalry games. And
you
rivalry and meaningful games.
We won every one of them.
That's right. That's right.
So
all right.
So that's going to be interesting. We know that Georgia, I don't have them losing to Alabama. And
I don't either.
And truthfully, the Big 12, it doesn't matter what happens in the Big 12 championship. The Big 12 is not being considered this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
In past years, it has been the Pac-12 out of the Power 5 that's always been on the outside looking in. This year, it's the Big 12. Now, I don't care what Texas does; they're not getting in.
Right, I totally agree. I agree on that. All right, and there's one more thing we want to hit. I know we're running a little tight on time. We have
my man just basically said I'm talking too much.
No, you're good. You're good. But we have an issue, something we talked about first part of this year when Deion Sanders took over the job at Colorado. We had a debate between you and I about the record.
Todd was right.
Was right. Yeah, we're heading there once again. We tap into again. I wish I had a little symbol on. I don't have it right now. Where Todd was right.
Mm-hmm.
The Colorado Buffaloes are not going bowling. As it stands right now, they're a four-win team, and that is not going to get you into a bowl game. And so, since we have that out the way, where Todd was right again, we have some notable things going on with Colorado. And what I really want to bring out, they have 2 notable decommitments. And both of those commitments were at quarterback. But we know his son, the quarterback, he has just reported on Monday that he has back fractures, and they don't know when he received those back fractures. But why do you believe these 2 quarterbacks, which are both, I think one was 4-star, one was a 3-star quarterback, both decommitted? I mean, in 2 days of each other, they decommitted to the Buffaloes. Talk to me.
Okay, so it's 2 things. All right. Number one is the easiest one is number one, okay, which is because Shador's coming back next year.
He is.
So if I'm a high star recruit, most of these kids want to play as soon as possible, even though a lot of times it's very unrealistic. Mm-hmm. So with that, Shador's going to come back. So they're like, I don't want to sit. But number 2, okay, which is probably more important than Shador coming back, is that am I the only one that has noticed that Colorado can't figure out who their offensive coordinator is going to be? So,
oh yes.
So if I'm a high leverage recruit and you playing musical offensive coordinators, let me go somewhere else where they have a little bit more stability in who's calling plays. Let me go somewhere where I know they can recruit offensive linemen. because this is what
Right.
we this is what and Lord knows I like Dion. Okay, that's Dion. I ain't gonna call him Coach
Yes.
Prime. I ain't gonna call him Coach Prime because he ain't done nothing prime worthy yet. So Dion, I like Dion, but Dion does good at recruiting skill positions. But you know what Dion has not impressed me with is his ability to find people for the trenches, both on the
For the
offensive
trenches.
side and on the defensive side.
And on the defense, I
And if
agree.
you're a quarterback, you know what you're dependent on? You're not dependent on great receivers. You're not dependent on great running backs, but you do need
No.
a good to great offensive line.
Yeah. I
Because
don't care how
because a
good you are
good,
at quarterback. If you
yeah,
don't have a good offensive lineman, I mean, you don't have a long day.
exactly.
It's simple as that. I mean, look at Tom Brady. There were a couple of years in New England that he had a mediocre offensive line. As great as he is, man, there was some games in which he couldn't overcome that, man. Weak offensive line play is not good, man. You're not going to win many games like that. And as you
Okay.
can see, Buffalo only won 4.
And on the flip side of that, look at the championships that Tom Brady won when he had a good offensive line, but he didn't have great receivers.
Right. They won a Super Bowl.
I'm just saying, like you don't to win in football, you don't have to have great receivers, but you need serviceable receivers.
Serviceable. That's right.
Okay, you need guys that they can catch the ball.
That's
Okay,
right.
they might not do highlight catches, but but
Right.
but you need guys who can get separation, and when they get separation, they catch the ball. If
There
they
you
can do
go.
that,
Good route runners. Yes.
yep.
Mhm.
If you can do that, you can go places, especially if you have a good offensive line. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
You
Yeah.
you you
Totally agree.
you don't
Totally
have to
agree.
have a stud running back, but if you got guys that open up holes to where a guy can who would usually get you 3 yards is now getting you 5, it'll
It's
take
a
you a
big
long way.
difference.
And what nobody wants to deal with is that, with all the hype that came with Dion and all the guys who were transferring in, he did not get any decent linemen.
He did. He
And
did.
that's what caught up with him.
Yep. Yep.
So
You caught up with him.
um
And if he
I,
doesn't do
I, I
anything
believe
in this offseason, we're gonna catch
I
up with
believe
him again next season.
I believe those are two reasons why you're seeing some decommits. And you're also seeing people from Colorado jumping in transfer portal.
Aha. You hit that one. I was gonna let that one slide, but yeah, there are people jumping ship and going into the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
But one thing about that situation in Colorado, that's going to give us some things to talk about all the way into the off season, all the way into next summer. So
You know it.
yeah, we'll keep our eyes on Colorado and 2 dudes in the mic, man. All right. So it's one more thing I want to hit. We're going to switch gears a little bit.
All right.
And we're going to go into professional wrestling, my man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this past weekend, the WWE had what they call the Survivor Series War Games.
Yeah. War game.
And we saw the return of the fight, Randy
Randy
Orton.
Orton. I
Yes,
hear
we did.
voices in my head. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And then the show ended with no other than the hometown boy, because War Games was held in Chicago this past weekend. CM Punk. Come on. What did he
Gilbert.
tell him? What? Okay, Brown, my analyst, my journalist, fact spitter. What are your thoughts on Survivor Series War Games this past weekend?
Okay, so I love the fact that we got to witness the return of the man who has the most devastating and surprising move in
Yes.
all of sports entertainment in the RKO.
Hey, oh,
I
that's
was,
right.
I'm, I like Randy Orton as a wrestler
Yes.
because he is the bridge between how wrestling was done and
Yes.
how wrestling is today.
That's right.
He gives you such the storytelling and the psychology of in-ring combat and
Yes. Yes, he
and
does
being
now.
able to properly sell moves and tell a complete story in the match. And then, of course, the RKO is one of the greatest finishers that we've ever seen in wrestling.
That's correct.
Nobody can do that off the rope snap power slam like Randy Orton.
Like Randy Orton.
The DDT from between the ropes, and nobody.
Right.
And the way that he plays to the crowd and slow walks and all of what he does with moves is such an homage to what we saw in the 80s and the 90s.
Yes.
But he also has the flair and the pizzazz of what people want in today's wrestling, with these modern wrestlers who, run and jump and do flips all over the place. I mean, because like that RKO that he gave off the top of the cage.
Yes.
That is what I'm talking about with Randy Orton, how you get the best of both worlds. That was a high leverage. Right. That's a high leverage moment that we see more and more in today's wrestling. But then I loved every minute of Randy Orton coming back. And it's good. It's good for wrestling. It's good for the business. It's good for the locker room. It's good for storytelling, because we know with how Randy is, Randy doesn't forget. He's the Viper. So in him coming back, I'm looking forward to see his calculated, strategic approach to how he is going to literally completely destroy the bloodline.
Right.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And even how this is going to build and probably be a key part of WrestleMania 40. As a matter of fact, can I just go ahead and tell you that you heard it here first? Roman Reigns is going to drop the belt at WrestleMania 40. He's going to drop it to Cody Rhodes, and do not be surprised that it is an RKO out of nowhere that seals the deal for Cody Rhodes becoming the next undisputed WWE champion. And when you see it, just understand that you heard it here first on November the 28th on Two Dudes and a Mic.
Come on. Yes, sir. Yes. I agree with everything you said. Even the way you calling out WrestleMania 40, which once again is being held in Philadelphia, PA on this year. Man, I know you have to be excited, man. I know you have to be excited. Your hometown is like going to be the epicenter of professional wrestling next year, my man.
That's right. That's right.
All right. And let's address the elephant in the room, which is CM Punk.
Well, you can talk about CM Punk, because I ain't got no words for Philbert. I wish that Philbert didn't come back to WWE. You see, I won't even call him by his ring name. I'm calling him by his real name, Philbert.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, I'll say like this. I know this real life heat between Seth Rollins and CM Punk.
I'm with Seth.
When I thought there was really a problem between Seth Rollins and Cody, boy, I saw a whole different side of Seth Rollins when CM Punk came out. And even last night on Raw, we didn't talk about Raw this episode, but even last night on Raw, Seth Rollins let the world know if it's disdain of CM Punk, man. I mean, seriously, sir.
I'm with it.
All I'm going to say, we agree that Randy Orton is good for business, good for wrestling. He's going to be that glue that bridges the old style wrestling with this new current era of wrestling. But CM Punk, much as I in the past, like pretty much 10 years ago when his stint was in WWE, I was a fan. I'm not sure he's good for business. Just to be honest with you, I was excited at first when he came outside and did his thing, clobbering time, blah, blah, blah. But then as time went on, and I watched him last night at the end of Raw, I'm not convinced this is good for business. I just don't agree. I don't know.
Philbert is taking somebody else's opportunity to shine.
Right.
Okay. I mean, okay. Because you brought up last night's Raw.
Right.
So let's look at I'm gonna use two instances from yesterday on Raw last night. So if you notice, Randy Orton and the pop that he got and in the celebration that he got, did you notice that it didn't take away from Rhea Ripley or the Judgment Day?
No, it did
But
not.
it added to them.
It added.
It literally.
I agree.
So even though Randy heightens things for himself, he also heightened things for the validity of Judgment Day.
That is correct.
Okay? And even though I did not like this from a booking and creative standpoint, do you see how New Day gave way to Creed?
Right.
And they took a clean loss, which I think is ridiculous anyway. But
I think that's ridiculous, but yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. But they gave way to somebody else. I don't think that CM Punk has it in him to ever give anybody else shine.
Right.
And that's where I take issue with Filbert. Filbert wants it to be about Filbert, but you can't, we never get to see the greatness of the Macho Man without Hulk Hogan.
Right,
you
exactly.
don't get to see the greatness of The Rock without a Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Without Stone Cold Steve
Austin. We don't get to see the greatness of a Sting without a Ric Flair.
Without Ric Flair. That's right.
You see what I'm saying? We don't get to see the greatness of Dusty Rhodes without Ric Flair. So
that's correct.
Even though you can be the top guy, what are you doing to help make other people be top guys too? And Filbert doesn't do that.
No. He wants to be literally known as the one and only best in the world.
But he's not.
But he's not. He's not. He's not. And like I said, much as I have been in the past a CM Punk fan,
Filbert,
Filbert, I'm not convinced yet that this is good for business. Good for wrestling, not good for the fans, however you want to call it. Yeah. All right. Well, my man, that concludes our episode of Two Dudes and a Mic.
And listen, we want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to Two Dudes and a Mic. We know it's been a minute. We're going to be back being more consistent on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can come check us out. Two Dudes and a Mic, talking everything sports as well as even sports entertainment. We hope that you have enjoyed everything that we've discussed. It's been insightful. It's been entertaining. It's caused you to laugh a little bit, but it's also caused you to think as well. And listen, if there's certain topics that you want to hear us talk about on Two Dudes and a Mic, just make sure that you hit it in the comment line, in the comment section, and we'll make sure to touch on those topics. And listen, if you're watching, share this podcast with somebody else so that we can continue to grow our audience, because we have more to say than some of those national pundits that y'all be listening to. And we're going to give you some good facts sprinkled with a little bit of unbiased opinion, because that's what we do here on Two Dudes, One Mic. Me,
that's right.
T.A. Brown, the fact splitter, the good neighbor, none other than Henry Sanders. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And for the rest of the day, you make sure that you have a great one. Peace.
Peace.